Good, YouTube? It's the King here, Aqua Life baby. You already know how it is. I was just gonna give you guys the locals report. I was trying to record. When was it? Trying to record on Saturday at locals, but we had a Magic release tournament, and then there was like a whole D&D thing. The store was packed. They needed to keep the walkways as clear as possible, so couldn't set up and record. But try again next week. Hopefully no Magic events next week. That would prevent me from doing that. So as far as the tournament report goes, went 3 rounds, played Aquaforce, wanted to see if I could see how we did against the new meta in tournament. Round 1, played against D-Police, ended up losing that 1-2. Lost the first game because I sat on Riptide the entire game. I guarded with Riptide, and then I top-decked the other one, so I was really salty about that. And then I didn't see Maelstrom or Naval Gazer because they were within the last 15 cards of my deck. All copies of them were within the last 15 copies of my deck, 15 cards of my deck. So surprised I survived that long, but it was really bad. Game 2 I won, got on Maelstrom, got my plays off, was able to pressure him immensely. Hitting the front triggers really secured the game for me, especially late. And then game 3 I lost. That was a game where I just couldn't get to all of my pieces. He swung like 48k rear guard at title. I couldn't afford to block him. He sat on Great Dayusha, but kind of back and forth. It's just that, I still had 3 copies of title, 3 copies of Algos left in my deck. And I was going through my deck, but again, it was just one of the things where I just wasn't seeing my multi-attackers, wasn't seeing really any pieces. I was drawing into mostly just grade 1s and triggers. It was really bad, but still kept it up. But he ended up top decking the Dayusha he needed, and I had to put out guard for that. I just had enough for 1 to pass because he was able to use Dayusha's rest skill to put him up to a high power with extra crit. So I had to guard with more than I was planning on that turn, and ended up losing. And then I ended up losing that game. I could have survived if he didn't top deck the Dayusha, but it is what it is. Then round two I played against Shirayuki. That was really quick. I won 2-0. Both games I won on my first grade 3 ride. Game 1 I hit double front trigger, and he didn't have enough guard to block the attacks. He also had to let Maelstrom restand, so that was cool. And then game 2, kind of the same deal. Had a lot of pressure. I got a good turn 2 off, and then turn 3, game 3, a front trigger kind of sealed it. Restood Maelstrom, swung again, ended up hitting like a draw trigger and another front, and then was just able to secure the game there. And then final round 3, played against Highlander Bermuda. Both games literally went the same. I won 2-0. Good rush turns. Not really rush. I didn't really turn 2 rush him. I more like counter rushed him, but then he had to eat a certain damage because he had to expend more resources to get certain things onto the board. He did have the Bermuda card that was 15k, so I kind of focused that for the first 2 attacks. Then swung at his Vanguard. He kind of had to take it because his hand was kind of chocked with grade 3s and 4s. So he had to eat the damage, and then me hitting the front trigger on the turn really sealed the game because he had too many grade 3s, grade 4s in hand, and this would happen both games where he never was able to get to grade 4 because he had to deal with a lot of attacks, and I think he hit a damage trigger in one of them. Not that it made a huge difference because the kind of the front trigger kind of helped out in that regard as well. But yeah. Really good play by Maelstrom that day. I played against Kagro and all of that stuff after the tournament. Play tested with Black Steve, the night before Nova's Aquaforce. So I'll talk about all of that in another video, but just want to let you guys know how locals went. I'm hoping to face more of those face the great. I played the great. My brother was playing with the great, so looking to face more of those decks upcoming. Looking forward to my Glorious Justice. Really, I really see a lot of situations in where, you know, if I were on Glory, you know, if I was X on Glory, if I had Coral Assault instead of, you know, X unit on the board, then the play would go a little bit differently. If I had Coral Assault, or I said Wheel Assault on board, Coral on board, just a lot of things I'm noticing that if I were to have these cards on board, how much different would it be? But I think one of the more important things for you guys to learn is that you got to learn how to play on regular Maelstrom before you know, because if you can't win on if you can't win or do well on regular Maelstrom, then, you know, you're going to be sitting there, and yes, you'll have a Glory turn, but you know, again, you got to make the Glory turn worth it too. Glory is a fantastic card overall, and a lot of people think Aquaforce is easy now and you can just cheese Glory. And it's like, hey, look at this, look at the stream that happened this morning. Leon's voice actor was playing Aquaforce. Absolutely, you know, and sure, you know, it's me criticizing, but it was absolutely terrible formations, terrible attack patterns, terrible choice of where to place units. Just overall, just wasn't good play from Aquaforce. And, you know, yeah, some people say don't expect him to, but my thing is that if you're going to showcase, you know, a deck and things to people, then at least have, you know, be competent and, you know, read the cards, understand what they do, and practice just a little bit, you know. So, but yeah, you know, you got, you know, being able to play on Maelstrom is going to be very important. Coming up, being able to play on Glory without a Maelstrom and Soul is going to be important. So we're gonna cover all of this. We're gonna do a lot more you know, talks and whatnot about getting better with Maelstrom currently as he is right now, in terms of how to play with him and what to look for in your attack patterns. And then we're going to transition over, you know, once Glorious Justice comes out beginning into August, you know, we're going to get it in. All right, it's Cardfight King, baby. You already know how it is. Aqualife, and we out. Peace.